in job generation. It's a service. We've got a huge service provision here for the state economy. So there you go.
Quentin, I'm going to just interrupt you. We have a live shot of Mike Baird. He's up at the podium. Let's listen in.
Well, thanks for coming. What's been clear in my mind is as we approach the halfway mark of this term, and indeed 6 years into government, it's time for us to refresh, to reset our goals towards the 2019 election and beyond. And as I've reflected on this refresh, with a lot of deliberation, and with those I love the most and my dear friends, it has been clear to me that this refresh won't include me. I strongly believe now is the time to hand over to a new Premier to ensure that the focus on 2019 and beyond continues to set the agenda, and obviously that will no longer include me. So today I can confirm that I'm retiring from politics. It hasn't been an easy decision, and it's taken a lot of deliberation, but I strongly believe it is the right decision. And really there's a couple of reasons for that. In my maiden speech I spoke about wanting to come into public life to make a difference. I was frustrated by what I saw, a lack of action, and I was determined to try and get things done. I said many times I didn't want to become a career politician. I wanted to go as hard as I could for as long as I could and then step aside. Well, today I am making good on that pledge. After 10 years in public life, 3 years as Treasurer and 3 years as Premier, I think now is the right time to do this. Secondly, there is a strong personal cost that comes in public life. And I probably felt that more than any other time in the past few months. My father and my mother and my sister are going through very serious health challenges, and to be honest, at times I have been in pain, not being able to spend the time that I should. And this will change today. Whilst there's much more to do, I strongly believe that there is a great team that I leave behind, and they're going to do many more great things for the state. If you look at what we've achieved, and this is really the guts of it, this is why I'm so proud. As a team, what we have done, it is something that we should all look on with great pride. The economy, remember what New South Wales was like? It was a basket case. It now has the strongest economic growth. It's got the strongest jobs growth. It's got the strongest and highest housing approvals in the nation and the lowest unemployment rate. Things that don't happen by chance, but with a lot of hard work, and we're proud to do that. The budget, billions of dollars of deficits. We remember that, a net debt forecast to be $20 billion. Our credit rating under watch. Well, all that's changed. Billions of dollars of surpluses. Net debt down to close to zero. AAA confirmed. And importantly, the net worth of the state actually significantly boosted by close to $60 billion in this time. In health, we've achieved almost an unprecedented investment in new hospitals and health facilities, something that we need to do, we should do, and we are proud that we have done it, over almost $11 billion, and particularly in regional New South Wales. Many hospitals promise year after year after year. We've actually delivered. In education, we're proudly the first state to sign up to Gonski. Why is that important? Needs-based funding. Getting money to those disadvantaged students, those disadvantaged schools. They deserve the same chance and opportunity as every other student in this state and nation, and this funding coming to that is important. Importantly, when we made those decisions, we identified the savings to help us fund them. We've also focused in on teacher quality, great reforms there, more autonomy to local schools. Proud of what we've done. And infrastructure, I think, is the hallmark of the government. This state will never be the same again on the basis of what we set out to do in infrastructure. The poles and wires lease is something that will set this state up for a generation. The first 2 leases done, the third well underway. The proceeds have come, and we are getting about rebuilding New South Wales. Everyone can see it through their own eyes. I mean, have a look and see what is being built, and it is turning a very different city, a very different state on the back of the funds. You know, whether it be the Sydney Metro, the difference that's going to make, the light rail, the West Connects, the North Connects. Newcastle will be very different on the light rail project up there. Significant enhancement in sports stadiums underway, arts and culture underway, regional roads, Pacific Highway, Princess Highway, Newell Highway, and investment in water in regional New South Wales. The first time that Broken Hill has secure water at the start of that investment. I've said also, while it's great to get the economy going and the budget, it's important we also don't leave people behind. And looking after the vulnerable has been a key part of it as well, whether it be the NDIS, the investment we've made there, 60,000 additional people are going to have the support that they need. Support for our caseworkers on the front line, looking after some of the most vulnerable kids and families, the investment in domestic violence, social housing, many initiatives that we believe have made a difference to those who need support. In the environment, the container deposit scheme, I think, will be transformational for this state. I believe that other states will follow that lead. It's going to make a huge difference, something we're very proud of. And indeed, looking after the black soils of Liverpool Plains, purchasing back that coal licence with Karuna, I think is a hallmark achievement. Many other things, I don't want to bore everyone, but integrity measures we've introduced in donations and disclosures, Opal, Service New South Wales. I also believe our international relationships, key trading partnerships are much stronger. China and Japan and India, huge amount of investment in those. Also the future, what's going to happen in the Bays precinct, the Western Metro, which we already announced, big projects will make an incredible difference. And look, I'm just incredibly proud of what we have collectively achieved. And as I said, when I set out on the journey, I was frustrated on why New South Wales was behind the rest of the country. I was frustrated that nothing ever got built, and I wanted to make a difference. And as I look on that now, I strongly believe that we have. We have made a difference. I want to finish with thanks. I want to thank my Manly community. A local MP will tell you that it's a privilege to look after your local community, and I can tell you that I've never been prouder than the first day I walked into Parliament and had that privilege of my entire community on my back as I sought to represent them and fight for them in the chamber. I've met so many amazing people. It's such an incredible place, and I want to thank them for the support and confidence they've given in me. It's something I will cherish always. I want to thank my party, the Liberal Party. They have so many workers across the state and in my electorate have worked tirelessly. They've given me this opportunity, and I want to thank them for all their work over many years. I do want to thank my team, some of who are here. I believe I've got the best team anyone could ever imagine. Unbelievable capacity and talent, led by my Chief of Staff, Bay Warburton, who's done a phenomenal job, not just for me, but I believe for the state. I also want to thank the Deputy Premiers that I worked with, obviously Andrew Stoner and Troy Grant and John Barilaro, collectively working together for the state. I thank them for the service, and also my Deputy Leader, Gladys Berejiklian, for her support as my leader during this time as Premier. I also want to thank my family here today. A pretty amazing bunch. My wife, Karen, has been my lifeline. She has been so supportive on this journey. I love her dearly. And look, I just couldn't be prouder of having her. I think the most incredible woman. You know the VB ad that you're punching above your weight? Well, I've been punching above my weight for coming up to 27 years, and it's been such a joy to have her. She's done such a phenomenal job as First Lady, and I thank you, darling. My kids, I won't embarrass them. I promise I wouldn't. But you know, there are there are things that we have to do this year. It's an important time. We have my daughter Kate, who has her HSC, so she's really excited about the opportunity of me helping her with her HSC, which is not really. My daughter Laura, who's getting married. I feel too old to be a grandfather. I've made that very clear. But that's an exciting event for the family. And my son Luke, who's always wanted me to coach his soccer team. I'm not much of a soccer player, but that is something that I'll be doing. But I love my kids. Like any father in the state, you're so proud, and I'm incredibly proud of my wonderful kids and family. To the people of New South Wales, I just want to say thank you. Thank you that in 2015 you chose hope over fear. We strongly are repaying that faith and that trust you place in us. There is more to do, but the team will be working every day to ensure that is done. And I want to thank you for the incredible privilege it is to be Premier of this state. I mean, to be Premier of the best state in the best country in the world is something not to be taken for granted, and it's not. I want to thank you for the unbelievable privilege that has been. New South Wales will have a new Premier, but that Premier will complete what we've started. And it's important to note this is a great government doing great things, and will continue to do that. I'm very confident in the team that will come after me. I'm very confident that this state will continue to surge ahead the rest of the nation because of the policies that we put in place. So to everyone in New South Wales, thank you. It's been a privilege, and I look forward to seeing you whenever I see you. Thanks.
Premier, are you cutting and running on the state?
No, this is a long journey, as I said. When you get to the position of 10 years in public life, I think it's been a long battle at times. 3 years as Treasurer, 3 years as Premier. I think you look at the difference that we have made. It's appropriate that governments refresh and renew. We'll that at this time. So,
but did it all look too hard going forward? You know, you had a reshuffle, you've had all these dramas over greyhounds and all the rest. You just thought, well, hang this. You know, I got in here and did what I wanted to achieve. And secondly, when did you make the decision you were definitely going?
So coming to the first one, no, I mean, not at all. I mean, you don't know the time. I strongly think. I mean, sometimes you run for election, you don't win. Other times, such as this, you come to a sense, well, actually, now is the time. And it's not a matter of the challenges. And yeah, there's been huge challenges in this on the journey. Of course there has. I mean, every week of every year there are challenges in public life. But I reflect very strongly on the positives. I mean, look at the difference. I mean, this is not a sense of anything other than look at the difference that we have made. That's what it was all about to me, to go as hard as I could for as long as I could. And there's a strong sense on the basis of the reasons that I've given that now is the time. In terms of the timing, it literally was only in the past couple of weeks that I made the decision. I wanted to make sure that as I went into a bit of time off with my family and those closest to me, I spent time reflecting on this, and I wanted to make sure that if I was going to go, that I definitely thought that now was the time. And
what was the moment? What was the moment you said, I'm going? Were you talking to your wife, your kids, your parents? What? Just
well, I didn't.
Out having a surf? I mean, when was the
well, I didn't diarise it. But look, I think, ultimately it came down to a time with Karen and I. We went through every basis of the decision, every element, and we both collectively agreed that now was the time.
Would you not December, you were telling us repeatedly when we were asking about your future in politics, you were repeatedly telling us that your intention, these were your words, your intention was to go to the 2019 election.
Yeah.
Why did you say that to us late last year?
Well, because it was my intention.
And what was there one thing that has changed your mind over the summer? For example, was it the terribly difficult year you had last year, where you had personal attacks over things like the lockout laws, your credibility was under question over things like greyhounds and ICAT? Was it just getting a bit much?
No, I think as I stand here now, I reflect on the entire journey. And yes, there were some tough things last year, but every government goes through tough things. There were tough things right back when I first started. I wasn't going to win the first election I was in. I was behind in the polling. It involved door knocking, hundreds of homes every day. It was a brutal, tough event. That was tough. There was tough moments all the way through it. You have to accept it. But ultimately, you have to deal with what's thrown at you. But at the same time, you also need to make sure that you have the vision. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it you think that you need the state to achieve? Where do we need to go? And that's what you fight for. And as I reflect over the past 10 years, and obviously the last 6 years, or coming up to 6 years, as government, there are many things we fought for that are delivering huge benefits to the state, and I'm very proud of those. And that collection of a consideration of the events, what we've achieved, the personal circumstances, you bring that together, and then that brings us here today.
What's next, Premier? Do you think that you could have won the 2019 election? It's only 2 years away.
I'm confident that we can win the next election.
Could you have won it as Premier?
Well, that's a hypothetical, and the important point in that is that the part of the reason for refresh, and every organisation needs to refresh. You need new leadership. You need to continually do that. You need to be dynamic, and that gives you a capacity to continue to listen to the community, to continue to have new ideas and fresh energy. And I think refreshing now gives a new Premier 2 years, an opportunity for them to put their mark onto the government, at the same time to set an agenda that is theirs.
Premier, it's not a bank, it's a government. So shouldn't the people of New South Wales choose their Premier rather than the Liberal Party?
That's the policy, and sort of has been the policy. And look, ultimately, I came into the role before an election. I've won an election, and I go out to a role after that election.
Who do you think should succeed you? Who do you think should succeed you? Should it be Gladys Berejiklian, do you think?
Look, that's a matter for the party room.
Will you be exercising your vote in next week's party room meeting?
I will be voting.
So you quitting Parliament now?
Well, I will be when, obviously, the time comes when a new Premier is installed.
So by-election.
Who will you vote for in that leadership?
Does it disappoint you that you might be being seen as leaving not at the top of your game, but obviously heard about you becoming the most popular politician in the country, to not so much anymore? Labor resolution last year was one of the most horrible years for you. You could have recovered. So does it disappoint you that you might be seen as not leaving at the top of your game?
Look, that's for others to write. I haven't come in here into politics for people to, write about me or talk about legacies or what you've done well or what you've done badly. I've generally come in to try and make a difference into people's lives. And there's a number of policy decisions we've made that I strongly believe make a huge difference to people's lives. And, I've given my best. I've given my all. There is nothing left. I've worked as hard as I possibly can for the people of the state. I've gone for over 10 years when you include the time before the election. And ultimately, I hope people see that I've made a difference.
What's the most disappointing thing?
Are you concerned that people are thinking he's bailing? Things are getting tough and now he's bailing us?
Well, that's up to people to write. I would encourage you to look at the track record, look at the time, not only over the past 6 months, but over the past 10 years. It's been a long journey. I'm very proud of what we have achieved. We've got so much to be proud of. And ultimately, I think that's what it's about to me. When you look at every single opportunity you get in public life, you've got an opportunity to try and make a difference. Hopefully people can see that. There are personal circumstances that come into time, and ultimately you're human. People kind of forget that those in public life and politicians are human. And there are personal circumstances that weigh upon you. And look, people can take whatever perspective they like. I just want everyone in New South Wales to know that the privilege has been unbelievable. I have worked as hard as I possibly can for every single one of you. And today I leave on the basis that I think I've given the best I can give.
What's the most disappointing thing for you? Is it the wide anting, the leaking from within your own party? What would you like to see your lot change going forward?
No, look, I mean, if you ask what's a regret, I think probably the biggest regret was the lack of outcome in the tax reform debate. I think, that's probably the thing that frustrated me the most. I think, there was a big opportunity there to do something very significant in terms of the competitiveness of the economy and the sustainability of funding services in the long term, and that's something I'm disappointed. I certainly gave it a crack, but that was something that wasn't to be, and obviously that's something that will be addressed into the future. So, to me, that's probably the one thing that stands out.
Premier, who will you be voting for next week, and can the people of New South Wales be confident that there are decent candidates to fill your large shoes?
Yeah, well, they are. Well, they're actually size 11, Sean, so they're not that big. But look, I will obviously be participating, but again, that's not for me to dictate who should take over. That's a matter for the party room. But I can tell you, as I look at my team, it is an incredibly talented team. There are many people in there with huge capacity, huge talent, all of who could be Premier. So from my point of view, that's what gives me comfort as well, that the quality of the team that is left behind, they will continue to do a great job with the state. And indeed, if you look at the team, I think they are the strongest team, not just in New South Wales, but across the country.
When did you tell Treasurer Gladys Berejiklian? When did you tell your staff? And is this suspicion we've had all along about a Kirribilli-style agreement with Berejiklian true?
So start at the end, no. And I'm not going to go through the timing with who, what, or when.
You had breakfast with the Treasurer this morning, didn't you?
Well, I'm not going to go through any timings. Look, I know we'll be interested in all that detail, but I'm not going to go into it.
Have you had any discussions with the private sector about a job? Have you been offered a job?
No, I haven't. In terms of being offered a job, look, over the years.
Have you had any discussions?
Yeah, no. Look. Over the years, people have said that if ever I leave politics, come and talk to me. That's obviously something I'll do in coming weeks.
In recent months, have you been discussing your future outside of politics with anybody in particular?
No, there is on a number of occasions over the past few years. People have said, if you ever leave politics, come and talk to us. Obviously, that's what I'll do.
So besides that, what's next?
Right. Well, yeah, that's part of it. Look, next is time with these guys, and so I don't know how long that is. I don't know what time. I'm not going to put any time frame on it. But now I want to spend time with my family, and yes, in the long term, I will be working elsewhere. I don't know what that is.
So what do you say to the Prime Minister before announcing his decision, and have you discussed or are you considering emerging federal politics?
So I start on this. No. No, I'm retiring from politics. I have spoken with the Prime Minister this morning.
To what extent did the parliamentary, the lack of parliamentary super play into this? That you just get 9% a year like everyone else under the old system, so you've got to get a job before the lives lose government.
Well, I think you know me well enough to know that's not the case. But look, I'll say this, that I think what is really important and a big opportunity is in Australia, for some reason, there is not the same input or desire or people's careers around actually contributing back to state or country. And, I hope that more people do it. I mean, there is so much talent in the private sector. I mean, why on earth would, a young graduate not think as they were planning their career, at some point, I want to give back to my state and country? And that might not necessarily mean coming into politics, but it could mean coming into the public service. And, coming in and making a contribution and then going back and doing whatever you're doing. I wish there was more of it. And, from my point of view, that's kind of how I've always viewed it. I wanted to come in and make a contribution. And I wish there was more of that DNA, because there's a lot of people that will give constructive views about what government is and isn't doing and what all the answers are. I mean, obviously. And my encouragement to them is, get involved. I mean, wouldn't it be a fantastic thing if every young graduate said, well, I'm going to spend 2 or 3 years in my career working for the state or working for the nation, and we would be so much better off if it happened. So hopefully people might reflect on that.
You had a successful career in banking, you've now had a successful career in politics. Is it something would you like to do differently?
Look, I mean, I can honestly say I don't know what's next, but, you know, I certainly am relatively young, notwithstanding I've got a daughter getting married and all of that comes. I just don't know what the future is. I mean, whatever it is, I'll throw myself into it and I'll try and make as much of a contribution as I can. I mean, I still want to be involved in some of the groups that have profoundly impacted me in this role. There's no doubt I want to try and support them in some way, but you know, the future, well, let's see what happens. Sorry, just there. Yep.
To what extent did unpopular policies in the country, New South Wales, like council amalgamations and greyhounds, play into this decision?
Look, I think, as I've said, I mean, any time in public life you're going to go through challenges, whether it be policy challenges, but you want to be doing what is right for the long term. I mean, what is the point of being in this role and being in government if you're not trying to do, with every ounce of your being, what is right? And, I mean, council amalgamations, I strongly believe, will deliver long-term benefits for every member of New South Wales. It will provide huge opportunities and much more competitiveness into the long term. Now, my argument, obviously in some areas, hasn't won the day yet, but you look at across other jurisdictions and it has. I mean, when it's happened, it's delivered benefits, everyone's moved on. Now, I will strongly encourage anyone who wants to go into public life, you know, don't just do what is popular, do what you think needs to be done and provides long-term benefits. And, you know, I mean, Menzies said that your role and responsibility is to try and convince the electorate of the merits of your argument. And the Poles and Wires is, I think, a good example of that, where for a long time, you know, maybe 2 decades, it was spoken about, hoped about, thought about, planned, tried, but we managed to convince the public on the benefits, and you will see a very different New South Wales on the back of it. If you took the principle that you didn't want to pursue an unpopular policy, then the state would have been poorer for it.
But is this you giving up? Is this you giving up?
Not at all. It's this time. Well, it's this time coming to an end. I mean, that's very different. I mean, you come to a position, you don't know how long.
So you don't think you could do anything more for New South Wales?
I think I've given everything I possibly can. There isn't a day where I haven't tried to deliver benefits for the people across this state. I've gone as hard as I possibly can for 10 years. At this time of refresh, when I look at the achievements, I'm incredibly satisfied of what we have achieved. When I look at the personal circumstances and challenges I'm facing, that conclusion, coupled with my strong belief in the talent and capacity of the team that will continue the great work for this state, I think it makes sense.
There were times when you were so adamant.
Sorry, mate.
One more, guys. Can you just articulate a bit more what you would have liked to have seen in terms of tax reform?
Look, no, I won't. All I'll say is that there was an opportunity there where, you know, all state premiers and the federal government were considering a whole range of options that I believe, if we'd come together to some solution, we could have set up a more competitive economy that generated more growth, more revenue for services, and that would have been a great thing. Now, hasn't happened yet, but obviously, I mean, you can see what I argued at the time. I mean, that's something that I strongly believe would have been fantastic. But again, I mean, that's matters that will be dealt with in coming years. Last one, yeah.
You've alluded to the issue with the ban. Was that the full stop?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly made it very tough. That's not the sole reason. Don't get me wrong.
Full stop.
Look, the past few months, and people talk about it being tough, and yes, there were some policy issues, but that was much tougher. You know, my father has gone through open heart surgery. He's got a long road back to recovery, but he was become the primary carer for my mother, and she's just gone to 24 hours care, so she's got muscular dystrophy disorder. So basically, she's losing function in everything. That's very tough to watch as a son, and it's not just me. I mean, there are many hundreds, thousands of people that go through similar things. My sister's had a reoccurrence of cancer, so I was in hospital with her last week. Those personal things obviously impact you, and the nature of this job makes it tough to be able to support as much as you want. So, as I said, the package of this is pretty clear. I wanted to make a contribution and make a difference. I'd look at what we've done, and I think we have. There's a fantastic team that can continue that work, and with the personal circumstances and that position and the need to refresh at this point, that's what brought me to the position.
So
Look, I've finished on this bridge. No, I'm very happy. I'm happy on a range of fronts. I'm happy that I've had the opportunity to have this role and to try and make a contribution, both from a local community and ultimately through to Premier. I'm very proud of what the team has established in that period. I'm also happy I'll have a chance to spend more time with these guys in coming weeks. But ultimately, I'm very happy that the state will continue with a great government doing great things. And ultimately, all of us want the best for this state. We want the best for this nation, and hopefully in some small way, I've made a contribution to that. Thanks, everyone.
All right, that was the New South Wales
Can't wait for that.
Premier Mike Baird announcing the reasons for his shock resignation today in Sydney. And there he is, being comforted by his family members. I'm in the studio here with the contributing editor with the New Daily and former presenter of 7:30 New South Wales here at the ABC, Quentin Dempster. Well, Quentin, what do you make of that very, very emotional press conference?
Well, the revelation to all of us was the ordeal